Hello and welcome to the Leonid Live Lounge. My name is Phil Redhead. I'm the head of in-house legal recruitment here at Leonid Group. Joining me today is Alessio Santoriello. He is the general counsel. He's a general counsel with more than 15 years of international experience across a range of sectors, including telecommunications, manufacturing, and energy. He's worked for brands such as Ferrari and Vodafone, and he's currently leading the legal and compliance function as general counsel for ZTE Italia, part of the ZTE Group, which is a global leading provider of integrated information and communication technology solutions operating in over 160 countries. Thank you so much for joining me, Alessio. How are you doing today?
Hi, Phil. I'm good, fine. Thank you. Thanks to you for inviting me today.
Yes, no
And it's a
problem at
pleasure.
all. We've got a few interesting topics. We're gonna see how many we manage to get through today. We're going to be talking about the evolving role of general counsels, career pathways for aspiring legal leaders, and then if we have time, we'll get on to sort of building and scaling a legal function and some of the factors to consider as part of that. But with your permission, we'll dive straight into the topic. And yeah, I wanted to start with your views on the evolving role of general counsels. We've seen a lot of changes in this over the last few years, especially. And firstly, wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on general counsels taking on some additional responsibilities in areas like ESG, compliance, and data privacy?
Yes, Phil, that's true. General counsels are known for serving as their company top legal advisors. But in the recent years, their role, we see that has expanded. We say if we can define the modern general counsel, they help the company to map out strategy, they shape a policy position, they define the company values and the culture, they support the business growth, and while safeguarding the company reputation. And ESG, compliance, and privacy are just some of the, let's say, new topics that general counsels have been asked to take the lead on. And what, in my opinion, it's like, of course, general counsels are they are very well positioned to navigate novel risks and opportunities, and they are good to help to translate these internally to the stakeholders. It's the fact that they're nexus to the law, and that all these new areas of they are law related. It's the general counsels are best placed to be one of the person to go for the company. But for let's say ESG, we see that I've noticed that like certain the big companies, they may have like ESG committees, so the general counsel will be one of them. It's in areas like that one, it cannot be just the general counsel that advise the board or the stakeholders. On specific on privacy, it's a little bit more sensitive the topic, because there might be with privacy there might be a conflict of interest. So we have seen that Article 38 in particular of GDPR, the controller, the processors must ensure that the task of the DPO do not result in a conflict of interest. So general counsels should just there are guidelines on privacy, on the roles that may lead to a conflict of interest, and senior management position can be seen as one of those roles. So it has to be evaluated. So if it's good if the head of legal, the general counsel, is the best place to cover also the DPO role, in particular with that one.
Yeah. No, and look, it's a really good point, and I'm interested as well to kind of understand if you're seeing any other trends or any other areas that are increasingly falling within the purview of a general counsel, or any you might see on the horizon that potentially are going to create sort of significant workflow for GCs?
I mean, the geopolitical situation leads me to say like international sanctions.
Yeah.
It's being one of those. And I believe also anti-bribery. I see that it's always a hot topic when in the code of ethics and in the questionnaire that customers and suppliers share. There is like it's always a key part to address for especially for the compliance function. And supply chain, I would say, it just I'm seeing here in Italy, but also across Europe that monitoring the entire supply chain it's is a key part of work also for ESG.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think these are the trends we're seeing as well. And I suppose the obvious question off the back of this is the workload certainly seems to be ever increasing. I'm yet to speak to a general counsel who tells me, "Oh yeah, no, things are really really straightforward, and the workload's decreasing, and actually I can reduce my team. I think I've got plenty of time to do what I want to do." What kind of strategies are you and your peers in the market using to kind of deal with this constant increased workload? Is it purely hiring, increasing those functions? Is it reliance on other teams as well in other divisions? What kind of strategies are you following?
I really like the question because I appreciate that there is an understanding, that the time is still the same, but the tasks that we have been asked to cover are more and more. And yeah, it's honestly what I'm doing. It's networking and speaking with peers, with general counsels and other companies. This is what I'm doing, and to discuss. We just share like best practices or use cases, and these I mean, for me also knowledge sharing it's very important, and it may help you because in the immediate it's you cannot ask for immediately new hiring or new headcounts, so you have to manage the workload with what you have, and but as you have the as you lead the function, you cannot you have to give instructions to your team. So, and
Yeah.
I think for me it's like again speaking and confronting myself with my peers. It's what if I'm doing now for
Yeah.
these new areas, especially we're discussing on ESG, on international sanctions. Or international sanctions, it's not as new, but the supply chain, yes, we're discussing, okay, what you're doing, how you're doing this. It's like, but, and it's, you sit on a table just openly discussing of with peers, and then you can also sort of discuss approach, and then this might lead to save some time and or to have to kind of refresh your mind and make a little bit of order in your head on what you have to do next.
Yeah. I mean, they say a problem shared is a problem halved, isn't it? It's
Exactly.
the old saying. So it
That's
makes a
fully
lot of
agree.
sense. But it's really interesting that you make that point about, how powerful the networking piece is. And, it makes a lot of sense because where you're sat within your own team, your own business, you may have a certain way of doing things. But with all of these new areas, every business is learning a lot of this for the first time, and some maybe are making more strides than others. Some maybe are given more resource or funding to look at things than others, and where you can pull some of that, I think that's never going to be a bad thing. So really important to recognise that. And actually, I think it leads us quite nicely onto the next topic that I was keen for us to discuss as well. If we're talking about kind of strategies that you take as a general counsel where you're managing workflows and that sort of thing, I wanted to spend some time talking about really two our listeners that are maybe senior legal counsels looking to make that step up into a head of position, and the different sort of techniques and strategies that they might need to look at when they want to attain a role like this. I suppose with that in mind, I'm most keen to ask you if there is maybe a key piece of advice or a few key pieces of advice that you would give to that prospective senior legal counsel who's looking for the opportunity to step up into a head of legal, a general counsel type position, whether that's skill sets and things that they should be developing, things they should be looking to do within their own organizations to help build out this, this profile to help them into a role like yours.
Yeah, it's as in few words. I mean, it's push yourself and push yourself to get out also from your comfort zone, and then look. I mean, where you want to be in a few years' time in your next role, and then really, it was an advice that was given to me by from a previous line manager. It's write down what you need to have for the next role, what both in your company, because in certain companies, you can see that, maybe they're big legal department, and it's like there are different layers. There is the head of legal, then the director, then the general counsel for big corporation. So I mean, for each step, what it's required, what you see that your line manager has and then what you miss. So I write down, really, because writing down, you sit down and you think about, okay, what do I need to in my next role, and what I'm gonna do to get that role, and especially what you write down. I mean, because it's when you have to write down something, you really think more, and then you realize it helps you also to put down your pathway, and then I think that it's important. But again, go out from your comfort zone and push yourself to and be honest with yourself and be critic with yourself. What if you miss something? You may miss maybe some line management experience, so you may go and ask your line manager if he give you the chance to mentor some junior lawyers, or if it cannot be done internally, what I've done while I was in Vodafone in London. I did help. I was like voluntary, like as a matter of joy, speaking with summer students coming to working with us. But then, and I started like naturally mentoring one of a few of them, and then it started from there. Also, it has been seen like mentoring, also giving some piece of advice. Then it brought for me to manage a more junior lawyer. So it's, I think, few words exactly: push yourself, get out from your comfort zone, and be critic with yourself. What you need for your next role that you don't have, and then say what I'm gonna do to.
It's a really good point, and I think the idea around being clear with your intentions is fundamental. And I trust the recruiter to now mention bringing this back to things like CVs, but it's why when we talk to senior counsels, senior candidates that are wanting to make that next step up the rung, I'm always saying things like, it's worth looking at your CV, looking at that skill set, looking at your value proposition, the elevator pitch of your skill set, and really think about what that is and what you're bringing to the market, and look for the gaps. And it's not a case of just putting a CV together because, I'm looking for a job, let me put this. It's as you said, it's getting those ideas, those points down on the page, really being critical with yourself to work out where those gaps might be, and then doing something about it, whether that's, as you say, seeking out line management opportunities or a chance to work on something multi-jurisdictionally that you might not have been able to do before. So really interesting point.
And if I may add one, it's just speak with headhunters and recruiters because
Well, that's kind of you to say.
That's absolutely. I'm not saying because I'm here with you. I promise, Phil. I
I'm
think
sure
that
not.
it's key for this, and because you guys have the full picture of how the legal market is, and you know what your clients want from a general counsel. So again, being honest and having network with headhunters and recruiters, and about what you currently do, and then if you build up some relationship, you may have some time to give to senior legal counsel that they want to step up in a general counsel head of legal position, and then you can also help them to you will absolutely be very helpful for them to understand what is needed.
Absolutely. Well, look, I'm not going to disagree with that. And you heard it here first. Talk to your headhunters because they're very useful resources. So thank you for that. That wasn't planned. I should stress. But no, thank you for that as well. And actually, whilst we're on this topic, I wanted to ask you absolutely fine if you don't necessarily have an answer for this, but for you, for your own career path and your career trajectory and what you've done, were there any kind of key pivotal moments or key decisions that you made that you felt really helped to elevate your career or to get you to the point that you're at now? If there's any specific examples of of that happening.
Yeah, I would say that it may sound fun, but taking a sabbatical year was 2014, and I was senior counsel at IMA. It's worldwide leader manufacturer for um, industrial equipment. So I was in a very good place and very good quality of work, but I wanted to. I felt that I was in a comfort zone that comfort zone may have not pushed me to move. So I said, okay, I'm gonna target. I wanna go, and I had an experience I did in New York, and then I had an LLM from U.S. Law School. So I always had a link to international.
Yeah.
And so I said I want to go and work in London. So what I miss now, what I don't have, I have an LLM in common law from US Law School, but I don't have I'm not UK qualified. So I took the sabbatical to start studying for the QLTS exam. It's the exam, the route for foreign lawyers to qualify in the UK. And I did pass the first part of the exam. And while I was going to take the second part, then I got the offer from a company in London, and actually it was Vodafone, and where I spent 7 years. So that is, I think, the most, let's say, brave decision I took, because remaining without a job, it's not easy, especially also, materially speaking, because you don't get an income. But then it's difficult looking for a job when you don't have one, because then it's not an easy process. And especially I was very strict to myself. I ain't gonna apply only in London, and I wanna get there. So, and I was receiving. It was okay to turn down offers the first month, good offers still in Italy or still or other countries in Europe, but I wanted to go there with a big company and big corporation. So, but then while months were passing, so I was saying, okay, should I stick to this decision? Should I really?
Yeah.
And then it came. So that was
a kind of foundational moment.
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting that actually I think when we ask a question like that, a lot of people think, oh, it was in this role that I was in, and then this opportunity came up, and I was able to kind of negotiate through work to get that. But actually, for you, it was almost stepping out of that environment and really assessing what you want to do, being brave, relocating to a new market, and being selective as well when you're looking at things, and backing yourself, if I can say that, and to find that next role. And it's something that we see a lot as well, where people, I think, can be in a role or in a company, especially for a number of years, and sometimes you focus only on what's ahead internally, and that seems to be the goal or the viewpoint. But actually sometimes it's stepping out, sometimes entirely out of those environments, that allows you to assess the wider market and find opportunities you wouldn't otherwise have thought to do. So yeah, really helpful. Thank you for that. How are you doing for time? Do you reckon we've got time for this last topic? Completely up to you.
Yeah, I still have. Yeah,
Let's do it then. So I think the last area that I was interested to talk on, and I think it does flow as well. Again, one of the other key parts of being a general counsel is overseeing and managing that function and what that looks like, and how the resource works. So I wanted to spend a second talking about when we're building or scaling a function like this, and things that we have to bear in mind. So I suppose from your own experiences and those of your peers as well, what do you think are kind of the fundamental or the key considerations when you're looking to scale that function? The workload is there, you've got the remit to scale. What are the kind of key considerations you're thinking about when you're making those decisions?
Yeah, I think that it's first step is to get a firm sense of the current status of your legal department, and the needs of the organization, and also the vision of how your team will function with the organization. I mean, especially if you know that there are going to be some, if the business is going to go in one particular direction, or if they're going to have some certain needs. I don't know, you may expect some period of M&A, so you don't have maybe capacity on, not capacity, I mean, maybe historically the team has not done too much M&A, so you have to understand that, it was going to be clear that you need someone that has experience on M&A, and that it's, and having said this, it's internally, your goal is that to maximize also the reach of the legal department to the entire organization. You don't want to be seen as not able to help the business in a particular area. So maybe just to simply say, okay, we can outsource, or we can use just our panel law firm. So you can do in certain moments, but then I'm always conscious that maybe then the legal department goes, starts to be seen as not as efficient as it should. So it's important then, again, it's sit down with your team and speak first with the business, get the picture of where the company wants to go, and if there are like change or new kind of workload that may arrive to the team. And then once you have this full picture, both of the organization and of your team, then you can, what I usually also do, I started to do, and it's like having champions so within your team. So maybe one is the expert on, could be like public procurement, the other could be an expert in M&A, the other could be an expert on certain policy or compliance matter. Then this means that this person is the person to go from the business, but internally, again, going back to the knowledge sharing, internally we all, this person, let's say, is responsible to do some research, to act as the lawyer for the legal department. And then on weekly or bi-weekly meetings, we say, okay, there's been this update, I did research on this matter, and this helps the entire team to grow, because it's, knowledge sharing also is, for me, you get knowledge with less time, it's one of your colleagues, you trust him as a lawyer, him or her, that he or her have done some research. You can say, okay, it's like now I got knowledge about this topic without having to do the entire research. So I'm like, I got the 3 points, the key part of this new law that I need to know. And I don't know if this address answer your question, but
It's
these days.
it definitely does, and just to pick up on a couple of things you said there, I think there's there's two important points here. It's not just looking obviously at the short term immediate need, you know, if there's M&A coming up or whatever that looks like, because as you're building that team, you're obviously needing to look at the longer term. But also, most importantly, this is about alignment with the business. As you rightly said, you can't assess what needs to be done unless you know exactly what direction the business is going in, what their strategy is, what the plan is. You as the GC may be very well aligned to that because you're in those rooms, you're having those conversations. But actually, as you said, it's about knowledge sharing and empowerment within your teams to make sure that they're also aligned. They also see this, because that's going to then determine, you know, what areas you want, what different areas these lawyers are going to be championing and are going to be leading on. And, you know, again, it shows really the importance of alignment with legal and with business strategy as well. It's not there as an island or as a separate piece. It's got to be really, really symbiotic and intertwined. So no, that's incredibly helpful. Thank you. Just one last point on this, I suppose, as well. When we're talking about scaling that team, sometimes this is about redeveloping and building skill sets of lawyers that you have in the business already. Sometimes it involves bringing new people in as well. Are there particular skill sets, personality traits, factors that you consider when you're looking to bring that new lawyer into your business? What kind of things are you looking for? What's really important to you?
It's I try to look into the new hire something that was maybe similar to me. So let's say, like, if from the CV can see that this person has done something different, just she went abroad to learn a language, or could be curiosity, of course, flexibility. I mean, it's like these are things that, of course, you cannot see from the CV, but
Yeah.
when you speak with the person, it's like, and how you embrace changes. It's kind of you having open discussion, and it's you can see, especially now in nowadays. Now we see that legal tech, it's about to change. They say certain things, and I think that is important that as a person you are curious about changes, and then you embrace the changes, and then a positive attitude, and being critic, and at the same time you're also flexible, and then critic, to try not to say, okay, we have to change everything, but flexible just meaning that, if there is something to a change in the way you normally work, that you can
Yeah.
take it. It just it happened to me that, with central platform internally for inside the company, that they were like, it started to say that, okay, now we no longer exchange emails, but we use our internal tools, and people were very negative about this. Oh, I have to change everything. I'm used to work with emails,
Yeah.
touch the emails, but then it's, and I think that, regardless, if it goes back to your question, flexibility, and on top of course, what it's like the hard skills, that you need for the position. But this is like for lawyers, it's
Yeah.
quite simple to assess if
Yes.
that person is the person you need for the particular kind of work. But then again, I think it's like their capacity to adapt, and flexibility and curiosity are like the key
Yeah.
words.
I like that as well, where you say, it's not just flexibility, but the curiosity that comes with it too. And I think a lot of people would say that naturally in legal lawyers, they're naturally curious. It comes with the territory a little bit as well. But you're right, the flexibility piece. I have to say, when we work on positions, that's nearly always front and center when it comes to in-house, especially, I think, because you have to be able and willing to adapt to what businesses are doing. Your remit's always going to change slightly. It's always got to align with business needs. And yes, you're right. Unfortunately, that's not something you can ever really define or see in a CV. I mean, I can tell you the amount of CVs I read where someone will say, I'm very flexible and adaptable, but you need to understand the person. And that's why, interviews, video shortlisting, things like that's really important. So you can get a much better sense of the personality of those candidates and making sure that they're going to align with your business too. So look, thank you so much for that. Any closing comments, anything else that you wanted to highlight or mention as well before we end our episode?
Nothing in particular. I hope look forward for next one. And
absolutely,
it was a pleasure, and I hope that something I said may be useful for future general counsels.
It certainly will, and look, it's on me to say thank you so much for participating in this. It's something that our network really likes, and I think these things that they're important. It's much more personable to run things this way. So I'm very grateful for your time, taking time out of your busy schedule, as we discussed earlier in some of our topics here as well, which is incredibly busy. And yeah, I'm just very grateful for your time today. And to our listeners and or watchers, we will see you in our next episode. Thank you so much, Alessio.
Thanks to you, Phil. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.